The Rise and Shine podcast series is made possible by the generous support of Bonnie Vozar of Chicago, Illinois.
I am simply an empty vessel filled by God as He saw fit to fill me. If you have power or wealth or talent or status of any sort, that it's just like a check that you received from God and you have just merely cashed it.
This is Rise and Shine, a podcast that offers timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations to fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note. Here is Adrienne Gold Davis.
A few months ago, a friend of mine, in a completely innocent way, with absolutely no ill intention, said that someone she'd been working with was like a younger version of you. She's like the new Adrienne. And my stomach immediately fell into my shoes. I had this nausea rise in my stomach. My head felt like someone was blinking the lights on and off in rapid succession. I had a full-blown instant body and mind reaction. It was visceral. I was so stunned and I was so angry. It reminded me of my old days in television where people would routinely tell me, you need to lose 10 pounds to accommodate for the weight that the camera puts on, or that you're a joy to watch, even if you're average looking. And why, I would ask myself, do people think I have no feelings? Why do people think that I can't be hurt or threatened or even reactive to what feels like an insult? Is it because I already get too much attention? Is it because I'm supposed to be so evolved and so filled with wisdom that I have no need for support or validation? To quote the Merchant of Venice and my beloved Shakespeare, if you cut me, do I not bleed? And, as is my way, instead of letting myself feel sad or hurt, I got angry. Angry is a much more manageable emotion for me to deal with, because sad makes me feel like I've lost control, but anger makes me feel more powerful, more proactive, and I definitely approach life with my dukes up rather than my arms open wide. So I quickly got off the phone. I pretended I had to go to a meeting, and then I spent a few days picking at the sore. I would focus on how insensitive and how socially off her comment was. Anything but examine why I had such a visceral reaction. Anything but look at my distorted pride. Now, years of Torah study have taught me that if something registers high on your reactivity meter, there is something there for you, because we are reactive and triggered only by those things that indeed have an element of truth. When we feel deeply reactive, then it's a sign that we're meant to dig deep and find the element of truth that the Almighty wishes us to hear and to deal with. In other words, if it comes to you, it's for you. This approach is how we grow. So it took me a few weeks before I could wade through my defenses and analyze my over-the-top reaction. And what landed square in my lap was my deepest fear, that I was no longer relevant, that I had ceased to be of value, that I would be put out to pasture, that I was past my best before date. My fear of obsolescence points to my delusion of grandeur. But we Jews believe that if you have a gift, if you have power or wealth or talent or status of any sort, that it's just like a check that you received from God and you have just merely cashed it. The rabbi and lecturer Nosson Weiss wrote the following in an essay on pride, and I pulled it out and I read it for the 100th time. Now I'm going to read it to you. According to Judaism, life is a mission. Each of us is sent to this world to accomplish something specific. Our missions are not of our choosing. It is God who selects everyone's particular task. Life is not a fortuitous opportunity, but a gift from God that is awarded in the form of a task. All human missions are necessary and important, and God does not give out life and send anyone down here unless they have something important to accomplish. Thus, Each of us has their own unique purpose, and we don't compete with each other. Our opportunity consists in successfully accomplishing what we were sent here, down here, to do by completing our assigned task. And we cannot do this without God's help. Consequently, Judaism teaches that there is no room for human pride. At best, we accomplish only what we were created to accomplish in the first place, and this with a considerable amount of help. And then he goes on to say this. The Jewish concept of humility is based on the idea that life is a mission. When you send a person on a mission, you have to supply them with equipments, and God assigns us our talents on the basis of his assessment of the sort of tools we require to accomplish our missions. For example, a person such as Moses, whose mission was to become the greatest prophet in history, had to be supplied with a lot of very specialized spiritual equipment to enable him to succeed at his mission. But equipment is always on loan. It doesn't belong to the worker, but to the company. In this case, God. It must be returned and accounted for when the job is completed. Each of us is really identical. You strip us of our equipment, and this, by the way, includes brains, family, social position, talents, and any other conceivable asset one can think of, and none of us are superior in any way to anyone else. God hands out the missions, and to him, they are all important. They must all be successfully accomplished for history to achieve its purpose, as I cannot know whether I'm doing better at mine than anyone is doing at his, then I have truly nothing to feel superior about. I am simply an empty vessel filled by God as he saw fit to fill me. And all other human beings are exactly like I am, filled by God as he saw fit to fill them. None of us own any of our equipment. Whoa. It's a long passage, but you can see why I felt like I had to read it to you. What a paradigm shift this is. What an antidote to arrogance or the delusion of power. What a reminder that we cannot and should not be threatened or jealous or concerned about anything to do with our missions that are here, except to fulfill them without looking over our shoulder. Our tasks are completed when God decides. And most importantly, our worth is not tied to anything but our decision to fulfill our missions. You know, there's a famous quote about a man who comes to his rabbi with a question. He asks the following, "Rabbi," he says, "all my life I've been running away from honor, but honor never runs after me." And the rabbi answered, "The problem is that you are busy looking over your shoulder to see if it's running after you." This is a reminder that the race of a meaningful life is run in our own lanes, and that this race is slowed or it's halted by worrying about the other runners, even if they're a younger and more exciting version of you in your prime. This week, can you ask yourself where you are deflecting discomfort into anger so that you won't have to address your own vulnerability? Can you examine whether your mission-driven life is pure or whether you're living it in a performative way? Can you allow yourself the very human sensitivity and vulnerability to feel the fear or the discomfort, but briefly, and then move on to continue your mission for its own sake? Because, as it says in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our fathers, the day is short, the work is great, the workers are lazy, the reward is great, and the master of the house is insistent.
Thanks for listening to Rise and Shine. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Momentum Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join Adrian again next time for more timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations that fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note.
This podcast was made possible by the generous support of Bonnie Vozar of Chicago, Illinois. Spread the wisdom. Inspire Jewish individuals around the globe by supporting Momentum's podcasts. To sponsor, contact podcast@momentumunlimited.org. You're listening to a Momentum podcast. For unlimited inspiration, wisdom, and empowerment, visit momentumunlimited.org.